Welcome to Women and Money, Real Talk and Solutions to Achieve Greater Prosperity. And hi, Becky and Allie. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited as people log on to just share with everyone that I chose the two of you to have as guests on my LinkedIn Live because of my deep respect for you and your work and your brilliant minds and your compassionate hearts. I think we're all very aligned in our mission to serve, especially women, become very empowered with money. And we each have our own unique skill set and approach. And I feel like we were divinely connected through the Dames. And for those of you who don't know, the Dames is a 6, 7, and 8-figure women business owners group that provides a tremendous amount of support and resources. And there are fabulous women in it like Becky and Allie and myself. And if you are a 6 or 7 or 8-figure woman business owner, I definitely recommend that you check it out. My assistant Raz is going to pop some links in the chat for you so that you can attend a free roundtable at the Dames if you're interested in that. So definitely check that out because you meet good people. So I'm going to give it another minute here while everyone is logging on and invite you, if you're on already, to post in the comments. Let us know where you're at. Let us know why you signed up for this LinkedIn Live. And please let us know if you have any questions. And the three of us are going to do our best to address those questions throughout the discussion. And we're also going to have a dedicated time at the end to answer any questions. And at the end of the presentation, we will all share some amazing resources with you so that you know how to get in touch with each of us and you can benefit from our unique current offerings. So very, very exciting. Welcome, Becky. Welcome, Allie. Do you want to say hi to everyone?
Well, hello there. It's so good to be here. Thank you for the invitation today, Joyce. And I can't wait to talk to you and Allie. It's going to be great.
Likewise.
Yes. Hi, all. I'm so excited to be here with both of you, Joyce and Becky. Again, this has been a long time coming. Really excited to come together and excited to share with everyone on the call today.
That's amazing. Well, let's go ahead and dive into the presentation. So I'd like to start out by formally introducing Becky Clabaugh, who has become my newest, dearest friend. I absolutely adore Becky. She is a highly gifted healer of any money issues. So Becky Clabaugh is a speaker, certified life coach, somatic financial behavioral change expert, and business mentor for women entrepreneurs who want to increase their confidence with money and improve their financial resilience. With more than 30 years of experience, she has a unique perspective that translates the powerful subconscious breakthroughs. So she works through all that garbage that we have in our head about money and normalizes that and removes the risks that we have with money. Becky's also the founder of something really cool called the 6-Figure Focus Lab. And this is a free online speed style networking group to help solo professionals break through subconscious agendas messing with their money. So how about that? I love that, Becky. Say hello again and let us know your thoughts.
So good to be here again. Yay. I can't wait to get started. Thank you for the nice introduction. I appreciate you.
And Allie Beckman, I am really excited about Allie. Allie represents to me a very contemporary, feminine, holistic perspective on financial advising that I wish I had when I first started having a financial advisor years ago. Becky is the founder of Beckman Financial. Allie Beckman empowers mission-driven individuals and business owners to utilize money as a tool so that their dreams become a reality that reflects their values and unique vision for impact. Beckman Financial. It's confusing that we've got Becky and Allie Beckman, so bear with me. Beckman Financial is on a mission to democratize financial advice and make it more transparent, which I love because we all know those advisors who have kind of sneaky fees and you don't really know what you're paying for. And she makes it accessible to all, especially those who felt excluded from the financial industry. And I love this about Allie. She's had 2 prior successful careers as a theater artist, musician, director, as well as a yoga and meditation teacher, which is something, Allie, that you and I share in common. And I love that you have that well-rounded kind of holistic success. And it sounds like you really specialize in working with creative clients as well, which is cool. Now, as a financial planner and investment advisor, her holistic approach honors the emotional side of money. That's all something that we all have in common, to work in harmony with strategy to create an effective process and an enjoyable experience. So let's give Allie a warm welcome, and please post in the comments, post in the chat, and let us know what you're thinking and how you're responding to all this.
Thanks again for having me, Joyce. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I would love to start out asking you our first question, Allie. What led you to be passionate about helping especially women with their financial health? And what do you love about the work?
Yeah. As you mentioned in my bio, I was a theater artist for 15 years, and I really focused on using theater as a tool for social change and social justice. So I've just always been really driven by impact and particularly drawn to support marginalized communities, people who are getting left behind from our systems. And so I resonate deeply as a woman, having gone through my own lack of financial education and resources, and then also as a creative. And so I really love working with women because the story is so personal to my own, right? Just really feeling the lack of pointed guidance that's being given to women, and then not really knowing or having the internal wherewithal when I was younger to know that this is something I can ask for. So I'm really passionate about just encouraging women and supporting them, breaking through those barriers and helping them understand that finance is a space for them.
I love that. And I particularly love your social justice focus because women, persons of color, members of the LGBTQIA plus population all experience financial discrimination and financial trauma each and every day that impacts their financial well-being. So I love that you've got that compassionate advocacy as part of your work. It's so important. And yeah, as women, we've been told our whole life that we're not good at math. We haven't been encouraged to study economics or finance. And so many of us are missing the skills that you really teach women now, which is critical.
Yeah.
So Becky, share please your story about how money affected you in your life and how you came into this work.
Yeah, well, money was taboo. We were not really allowed to speak about money for some reason. There was a lot of shame and a bankruptcy that happened. And I think that that's kind of where the story started. And I think there's a difference between a story and a memory. And so like you're talking about the financial wounds and even goal trauma / drama happens to us as we're people living in a human body. So I know that experience of I'm pretty sure, I'm very confident that emotional regulation and understanding the mind, body, money connection can support habit change. And that's what I really wanted to learn, how to earn, invest, share, and spend money in a really big way. I'm confident that you can really heal your money story from the psychology of money. My degree is I have a Bachelor of Science in Human Services. I was a drug and alcohol addiction counselor, and I love behavior change. So that holistic approach from the last 30 years of integrating somatic tools, which is all about the body, how we can regulate our nervous system so we can talk about money. I used to think that I sucked at math, and that's not even true. So I know there's a lot of other women who get really hot under the collar when they look at a P&L, and I know that there's really a way that you can adjust how we think. I call it rejigging how we think and behave around money.
I love your positive energy, Becky, and you are such a gifted healer, as I said, and really holistic and such a cheerleader, I think, for your clients because you're so passionate about it and create such a safe space, which is awesome. And I agree. I think probably we all come into this field for our own reason. And you mentioned bankruptcy, which is a financial trauma. My father experienced financial traumas of growing up during the Great Depression and also experiencing unemployment for an extended period of time during the automotive recession. And so I grew up with a scarcity mindset around money. I always joke that we therapists specialize in our own issues. I started my mental health practice, Urban Balance, with $500, 50,000 of student loans, made 1,000 mistakes, ended up in cash flow hell, almost had to file bankruptcy. And it wasn't until I had humility and asked for help and support and got out of the shame and the silence that I was able, along with the help of a lot of other people, to successfully sell my business when it was a 7-figure business and make an 8-figure exit. And I'm not sharing that to brag. I'm sharing it because if I can do it, other women can do this too. And it really involves the financial literacy and wise counsel of someone like Allie, the healing that Becky provides. And there's some overlap between Becky and myself in that as a therapist for 25 years, I have written about how I used psychology to change my money mindset in my book, The Financial Mindset Fix. So we're all aligned, right?
Very much so. It's a great book, by the way.
Yes.
I loved it, Becky. When you and I first met at the Dames Fun Friends, Becky sat down next to me with a copy of my book, had read it and was saying nice things and said that she, as a friend, is like a mom, a soccer mom on the sidelines cheering her friends on. Oh. And I said, great, will you be my friend? I appreciate that we as adults have the Dames as a way to make these deeper connections as well. So Becky, I want to start with you this time. What are one or two of the biggest money blocks that you see women have? And how do you specifically help them?
Thank you for asking that. Well, I really believe, of course, that there is a subconscious paradigm that we learn from our early childhood, from well-intending adults. And then the second thing, as I had mentioned already, is the stories that we hold on to wholeheartedly. We believe that the stories are absolutely true when there could be something in there that's absolutely not true. But when we have a relationship with money, especially managing the limiting beliefs and the negative emotions, I like to give a framework around that. And I call it the money sandwich because I think that money is super emotional. I like to make it kind of rememberable and silly in a way, because I think we all can have those blocks because our emotions give us that feedback that can also be really sneaky and in just hijacking the best efforts we have out there in the world. So I like to lovingly share, especially with financial experts and business coaches working with entrepreneurs, and they say, you got to know your numbers. But when your nervous system's lit up, it's really hard to look at numbers. You can really be having that feeling that it's very frightening, actually, because money is so emotional. So we talk about regulating your nervous system, having a conversation with the beliefs that we have, and then using the mindset as the practice. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's a mindset issue, but I think it's a nervous system issue.
I love that. It's very trauma informed, your perspective. And some of our money stories are even intergenerational. So if our grandparents or ancestors went through financial trauma, that's in our DNA and our neural pathways in terms of how we respond to money stress. And so it takes some deep conscious healing to reprogram those beliefs. In cognitive behavioral therapy, our thoughts precede our emotions and behaviors. So we have to be mindful of those stories. And in my clinical practice, when I hear people say, I'm broke, I'm poor, I'm never going to have a house like that, I have a really healthy respect for self-fulfilling prophecy and what we believe we become. And so we need to become the author of our own life story and not just the protagonist. So Becky, what are your thoughts on this, on the biggest money blocks that you see in your work as an advisor?
Well, I think it's interesting. It's the beliefs that we wholeheartedly believe exactly what you're talking about. But a lot of times my clients will have made money, a pretty good deal of money, and then they get to a set point. They get quote unquote stuck. And again, I do believe that it is the mind, body, emotional connection to money that, again, like you've already talked about, downloaded in our nervous system when we can actually work with those neural pathways, creating a new story as we look at the difference between the story and an actual memory. That we have hidden vows that to never supersede a grown-up or to never talk about money. Like for me, it was a taboo. And I used to think that in high school, I'd go to the ATM and I'd put in there $40 cash and it would give me $40. I was like, wow, the ATM machine is so cool. It just will spit out money for you. That wasn't even true. So learning about money as a skill, math is a tool, and so is money. And it also needs direction. So there's managing the limiting beliefs and the negative emotions is the first place to start.
I love that. And Allie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think something that's really resonating from what Becky just said before I go into my own thoughts is that, right, it's that taboo nature of money that really, I think, infiltrates deeper than we're aware of, because I think then that can show up in, it's not safe to ask questions. And that is a real problem. And coming from doing a lot of work in systems of oppression, making it feel unsafe to ask questions is a form of oppression, right? So that we're not talking to each other. So I really resonate with that. And that's why I'm so glad we're having this real conversation right now. I'd say one of the biggest blocks that I see with women in particular is around investing. There's so much fear around investing. And then you add the pressure, this feeling that so many women share, especially it's women across the board. And then women who are successful also, they feel like they should know so much more than they do. And then again, they're embarrassed. They don't feel safe to ask questions about how things work. And you should never invest in something that you don't understand. And I think there's an intuitive maybe understanding of that, which then, but that results in an avoidance, and it results in a paralysis, and it prevents women from getting started early. And so really my goal with my process and the way that I work with my clients is to, one, create that safety so that there are no stupid questions. You can bring your full self to the table and really get an understanding of where you're starting from so that we can then start where you are. And, I can educate my clients in the way that speaks to where they are, it's accessible, but then also linking it back to their life. Everyone's investment journey is going to be a little bit different. And so making it about you rather than the strategy, right? It's, you got to know what ladder you're putting, or what wall you're putting the ladder on before you start climbing it. So we have to figure out, what are your goals? What are your values? What do you actually want? And then let's find the right investment strategy to support that, whether it's me empowering you to do it on your own, or you outsourcing it to someone like me who can take that burden off of your shoulders. Either way, it's about figuring out what makes sense for you. And I think that helps put women back in the seat of power, where it's about you. It's not about the investments. That comes second. Let's figure out what you want and then make it happen.
See, I love that. And I love that your fee structure is different, where you have a flat rate, if I understand correctly. And I love that because you're not driven by selling products. And my experience sometimes with kind of the old way of financial planning was that I dreaded my financial planning meetings because I had tremendous shame and anxiety about my debt, about my lack of cash flow. I was embarrassed. And then I felt really uncomfortable and pressured to invest and to do things in more of a traditional way. And looking back on it, I really was making wise choices and investing in my business. However, they weren't maybe selling the products that the financial planner wanted me to purchase. So I love that you are focused on the person and holistic wellness. And both of you have mentioned money being a taboo topic. And we are taught that talking about money is rude, that it's impolite, that if we have a lot of money and we talk about it, it's going to make people want it, take it from us or take advantage of us. And if we don't have a lot of money, they're going to look down on us. Where, I'm super passionate about removing the shame and stigma between both mental health and financial stress. I've lived them both. I've dealt with an anxiety disorder throughout my life. Therapy has been transformational for me. And I've had financial stress to the point where I thought I had to file bankruptcy, and getting the support is how I was able to transform really holistically. And that's why I'm so passionate about this and really want to help people move through that. And I think, Becky, you kind of commented on, women hit a certain point, maybe of financial stability and success. And then I think we experience some guilt, like we're being selfish. And I know for me, I had a CPA that had to do an intervention and say, Joyce, you're not running a business to employ therapists. You deserve to make a profit. You're not running a charity, rather. And I learned that when I had more, I could help more.
Yeah.
So, Becky, what does it mean if someone's personal financial situation doesn't align with their career success? How does that happen? Because we think, if we're a great, successful lawyer, we should have tons of money, but sometimes that it doesn't work out that way. Why is that?
Well, I can speak from my experience and watching my clients go through this too. It really can be touching on our own personal psychology of money, which again, it's baked in with the beliefs and the thoughts and the words and behaviors, like you had already pointed on, that we can really get caught up in a loop of self-doubt. And it can be subconscious. It's a sneaky loop of comparison and enoughness, is what my personal opinion is. So I really believe that we can put into practice right away. Actually, it's that not enoughness, coming to that place of awareness around it from those old sneaky habits. I believe that healing this is an inside out job. Pretty much what Allie was saying too. We can really get you into that place of, what are you believing? What are you thinking? What are you dreaming? Many of my clients, because they have a goal, trauma/drama, or a financial wound, they don't even know how to dream anymore. And so this is a writer downer. That's a Beckyism for you. If you want to do this exercise, you can write down the word believe. And when you scratch off BE and then you scratch off VE, the word that's left over is lie. So that's the first place to start, is look and see what's going on with those sneaky little lies inside our beliefs. Because I feel that our financial situation doesn't line up with our career success, but it's that happiness of how we get out there and we serve one another with love. Because listen, Mother Teresa has a quote that says it takes a checkbook to change the world. So I love that.
Does she? That's so interesting. I love that. I love her, obviously. What an extraordinary woman.
No doubt. And just checking the things that we believe, are they true? Or is there something in there? Let's fact check ourselves. Because a lot of times when we have a limiting belief or a behavior, we're just trying to get a need met. So be kind. That's the end result with that.
Yeah. I love that, to have self-compassion and to recognize that some of those irrational money beliefs come from our parents, from cultural or religious teachings that they need to be challenged and worked through. Allie, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I relate to this. My own journey, I've watched, it's so interesting because on one hand, I've never been driven by making money. That's never been my motivator. But on the other hand, being a social theater artist for 15 years, I was not making a lot of money. And so at the same time, I was obsessed with how little money I had. I had to manage it very, very carefully. And so I've always been really aware of my net worth number, and that it has taken years of continuous dedicated work to unlink my self-worth from my net worth. And I think that just it's a worthy effort to make. And again, like Becky says, like, be kind, be compassionate. We create these stories and beliefs to survive whatever we're working through, but we don't always have to stay there. So I just want to normalize it. Again, our society, the system we live in, really, really wants us to be dollar centric, right? Everything comes back to that dollar, to the bottom line, like everything. It's just so focused on the money. So how can we honor the numbers and the power and the positive tool that money can be, but also look at, again, what do we really want? There was a time when I finally realized, but I actually have all of my needs met. I have so much of what I need. We can always be doing more. But I think starting to unlink that self-worth from the net worth is really important. But again, we have to remember we're kind of like salmon swimming upstream in that effort, because of the pressure and just the messaging that we're getting from our society doesn't really support that unlinking.
Ooh, absolutely. I thought it was super interesting that Susie Orman in her financial advising practice said that she noticed that self-worth leads to net worth, but it does not work the other way around.
Oh, wow. I love that.
And so that's something that I noticed in my clinical practice over the last 25 years. Early on, 5 years in, I noticed something really curious, that as my therapy clients were making progress in therapy, we were working on depression, anxiety, addiction, stress, relationship issues, stuff I think we all deal with at different points in our lives. But as they were making progress, client after client was coming into my office telling me that they had received raises and promotions, were starting their own businesses and their own side hustles. And I was like, why is this happening? We're not even talking about that. And I realized it's because in therapy, we're always working on our underlying self-worth and self-esteem. And when we embrace our unique gifts and talents and align them with a need in the world to the greatest extent possible, there's a financial return, and we negotiate, we advocate for ourselves. We're willing to expand our comfort zones. And so if you believe in the mind, body, spirit connection, I think that our net worth is connected, our job titles, our bank accounts, our net worth, our material possessions are all connected to ego. And that's our mind's understanding of ourselves. And our essence is our unique light, our authentic self. Maybe some would consider it your soul. And on that level, we are innately deserving. And so in life, our money can come and go. We could have a financial disaster even after great success. So we need to detach our worth from money and recognize we are always worthy, regardless of debt or financial mistakes. It's all part of the human experience. So a lot of what I teach in my program and my book is how to leverage the psychology of money, your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and relationships with money, and financial boundaries in relationships with others.
So, Joyce, I have to tap in. I want to just comment something that I'm hearing that's coming up strong for me is like that accountability. And I think I love that you said self-accountability. And something that I've realized in my role is I am oftentimes the biggest advocate for my clients. And so I think what can be so powerful about like what we're doing today and everyone who's on this call is helping each other stay accountable, right? Like helping each other remember these things when we forget, because we inevitably will, and we'll get lost in the waters at some point. And so reminding each other that our self-worth is not linked to the net worth, and like we can do anything, and just being advocates for each other and holding each other accountable, just continuing to make it normal to talk about it gets me excited.
I love it, because when we don't talk about it, we suffer in silence. We compare our insides to other people's outsides, and we don't benefit from other people's knowledge and wisdom. All of us is smarter than any one of us. So it makes sense to seek wise counsel. And that was my biggest problem with my business, is that I did not seek proper business and financial consultation because I was afraid. I thought that somebody was going to say, Joyce, your business model doesn't work, and that I'd have to close my business. And that was incredibly foolish. And it was related to fear and shame and pride and ego. And once I was broken open out of desperation, honestly, and I asked for help, help came out of the woodwork. So I agree. And as women, we need to lift one another up. So Becky, why do you think having professional support around money is so important, especially for women?
Well, I think because lots of reasons, but what you're talking about, both of you, I think it comes from that place when we can learn how to remember how to have our own back. I think that we can get amnesia because of all the hard things that have happened, but I think that perfectionistic tendency comes forward, and it really comes from that place of those sneaky little bugaboos again. The professional support. Gosh, we all have experienced things in our life, right? I mean, we all are humans. And I believe that there's that difference between knowing when to reach out to a life coach or a licensed professional, a qualified mental health professional, as well as a professional financial advisor. You know, that's a game changer. And I call it your advisor, you know, your advisory board. I have a very small advisory board. Joyce, you're one of those people. Is that sometimes we check in. Also, I have a couple other people I check in with and vet if I need to invest in something, or if that's a shiny thing that my brain wants to go after because it's really having a tendency to procrastinate or avoid something. And that's what a bugaboo is. I call them bugaboos. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, I'm sure. But they're the sneaky little thoughts and behaviors we create in our mind in order to avoid a negative emotion about money. So I think that having that professional support around you is critical.
Because we can't see ourselves, right? We all have blind spots. And I always joke that, you know, therapists, we specialize in our own issues. And mine is, you know, financial anxiety and scarcity mindset. And even though I've worked through it a lot, I still struggle with my fee setting, with my speaking engagements. I still self-sabotage in different ways. And so I need guardrails. I need people around me to, you know, help me save myself from myself, you know. So my financial advisor, my husband, Jason, and I have to clear larger expenses with him because I will spend my money. And so we need to have that kind of support. It's really critical. And it saves us from learning those, you know, those really difficult questions. And Becky, I agree about having the financial support of advisors. It's really important. So Allie, what do you think is important about having support around money?
Yeah. I mean, so much of what you both have already said, right? We all have our blind spots, even the most aware and put together of us. And we just can't do it all alone. We don't have to, you know? I think, yeah. And then the other piece, it's the checks and balances. Our emotions move us. And sometimes our emotions are like wild horses. And so if we don't have those trusted advisors that we can call, who we feel safe to be honest with about what we're experiencing and where we're at, you know, we might make decisions that could have really big implications, very real implications down the line. So having those checks and balances, we know Vanguard has put out so many studies about the actual return, the actual monetary value that you can see by having an advisor simply because of the behavioral management piece. It's having that person to guide you. I'll also share one of my clients, she is actively building her team right now. And she keeps talking about her team. She's a business owner. She's got a couple advisors. She's got me. We're getting her a new CPA, and I'm watching her build this team and the energy that it's opening up for her, right? It's an investment, and sometimes it's scary, but I'm watching her really feel the support of the team and not have to carry the burden all on her own. And what I'm seeing happen then is she's more free to have bigger ideas. She's more free to organize herself more coherently. She can see further into the distance. She's making leaps and bounds in progress because she's putting the right support around her. I always like to think about that healthy balance where we have our structures and our boundaries, where they're not so tight that we become rigid and inflexible, but they are there enough to facilitate optimum freedom of movement. And so I think that's what's happening with this team of advisors. They're there to put those right supports in space so that you can move as freely and as optimally as possible.
I love that. And that reminds me, you and I have both studied meditation and yoga, and the idea of flow. Our breath has flow, love has flow, money has flow. It goes in, it goes out. It's about balancing and managing that flow as we move through our lives. At different times, we may have different responsibilities, stressors. So we need to be flexible and adaptable. So when you have that framework and that support, it is, so helpful. And, I think also, Allie, with your work, teaching financial literacy, because as a therapist for 25 years, I was shocked because I was counseling mostly highly professional people in the Chicago area, very educated. And over and over and over again, I saw women who were not financially literate, who were sometimes in relationships with men who felt more financially illiterate. And then that led to a real power imbalance in their relationship. And that led to imbalances in power and control and relationship conflict. So I think for all of us to have that financial literacy and to feel comfortable knowing about investment options and reports and retirement and taking the reins of our financial life instead of giving it away. I see that also with a lot of business owners like us that have their husbands manage the books.
Yeah.
And I think even if we have a wonderful husband or partner that's or wife that's willing to do that, we need to also share in that responsibility. So I love what you're saying. I also wanted to ask about imposter syndrome and perfectionism, because I've seen that really hold people back. Allie, how have you noticed that in your work?
Yeah, I mean, I think I relate. And I think when you experience that imposter syndrome, I mean, whether it's money or anything else, it usually results in some sort of paralysis and avoidance, and then this ends up, at least when it comes to the financial implications, can result in a huge cost of waiting. This imposter syndrome, this paralysis, this avoidance. Well, time is the biggest ingredient when it comes to the recipe of your financial success. The more time you can just be invested, not day trading, just like getting in and staying in, the more successful you will be. And so I see this imposter syndrome show up a lot. It's something that I relate to, even, coming from my background as an artist, even though I was always mathematically and academically gifted. Again, I didn't have someone saying, hey, here's how you could apply those skills to a career that might support you. So it's overcoming this and then just moving into action. And so again, I think it comes back to creating safety, creating normalization, that these are really valid feelings. And like Becky was saying, we don't have to believe them, right? We can honor them, and we have to honor them in order to move through them. But then we can work with them and reframe them, integrate them in a way that's going to support us. I mean, I'm motivated to talk about it just because I took a long time to get started in investing because I didn't know and I didn't think financial advice was for me. And so I see clients, I've started quantifying the loss, here's by you not taking action to put that cash in an investment, we just missed out on the opportunity for literally $40,000. One of my clients missed out on 40 grand by simply not moving her cash into an investment for the last year of the market. So it's like, these are real numbers, and there's all those studies. Go Google it, starting investing at 25 versus 35. You'll see the difference. It can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference over time. And so I say this to encourage you to just start where you are, whether that's Googling whatever I just said, or reaching out to a friend, reaching out to an advisor, even looking at an advisor's website, just getting your head wrapped around, what do I need to do to just start talking with somebody? Well, it's reaching out, just start where you are. This is meant for you. You are participating in the economy. Like, it is all meant for you. So we're all here. There's people like Becky and Joyce and myself to support you safely moving through that imposter syndrome and that feeling like you're never going to know enough to get started. It's a lie.
Yes, absolutely. And imposter syndrome and perfectionism, I write about them in my book. They're sand traps and they're ego-based. Our mind tells us we're not good enough. It's not ready. And I've had so many clients who have a business plan in mind, or they've written a screenplay, or they're a gifted artist and they've showed their work to nobody. So I always say we're all beggars sitting on a golden bench. We all have these unique gifts that we haven't cashed in on. And it takes courage. And it takes that leap of faith, and it just needs to be good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then imposter syndrome, we can recover from that by talking about it. When I started graduate school at Northwestern, I was sure it was a mistake because I was rejected from everywhere else, including the University of Akron. Take that, University of Akron. So I felt like I didn't belong there. I mean, come on, being a therapist at 24 years old, who was I to be giving advice? The first time I became an author, I was, terrified in terms of how people would respond and did I know enough? So, we all need to care enough about ourselves to take the risks and lean in, like Sheryl Sandberg's book, lean in, find your voice, speak at the table. These are the things that I say, in my client's head. So Becky, why do you think that having professional support around money is so important?
Well, I think that community is everything, especially if we've experienced life, any kind of wound, financially, emotionally, spiritually, educationally. How many times did you get shamed by an educator as an elementary school student? Then it comes to that place of where it's relational. We do need to have people who we can borrow belief from. That's my favorite thing, is knowing the tips on what kind of support we need and how to evaluate that. I think, again, I know from the polyvagal theory and things in regards to what happens in our nervous system and how the best way to really move forward is what you're talking about. Bring the things out of the dark, those little skeletons, the bugaboos under the bed that are really actually about a little 3-year-old back there just trying to get a need met. So when we can have that community, like in the Dames or in our power, our pods, and how we can network and connect. That's why I created the 6-Figure Focus Lab, is because I wanted people to come together and learn how to share and introduce, and all ships rise with the tide. And that's my favorite thought.
I love that. And I sometimes fantasize about being your client because you're so warm and kind, and you really are so knowledgeable about the neuroscience, the emotions, the behaviors, and even the practical logistics of finances and how we cause ourselves self-limitation and self-sabotage. And I do think as women, this is different because we have sexism, discrimination, and marginalization. There's still a wage gap where we're earning 79 cents on the dollar. We tend to undervalue ourselves and our skills and abilities and don't apply for positions that men of similar qualifications will apply for. I don't think that we're negotiating. I can say this as an employer who's hired hundreds of women. And when I hire women, 99% of them say, thank you. I'm so grateful. When do I start? And in the cases where I hire men, often they say, thank you. I'm so grateful. I'd like a couple days to think about it. I did some research. Some of your competitors are paying a little bit more. I was hoping for that amount. Are you willing to offer more training, et cetera? So we need to teach our kids how to be financially literate. We need to role model with our mentors. I fully plan on hiring Allie to be my young adult children's financial advisor, because I know that they would love her and listen to me, which of course kids don't listen to their moms. So in here also, we had a question about sort of the wage gap for women. Why do you think there's still that wage gap, and what can we do about it? Allie, what do you think?
Yeah. This is an area that I really like to talk about with women to, again, help them understand that it's not their fault and the system simply wasn't built for us. And I know that's a big statement, but it wasn't. Just to throw out a few dates to help us remember how early we are in our female financial journey. It wasn't until 1974 that women could get their own credit card or buy a house without a man signing with them. That was thanks to Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the 1974 Equal Credit Opportunity Act. I recently learned earlier this year that it wasn't until 1988 that women could get their own business loan. That's way later. So we're talking less than 40 years ago, women for the first time could get their own business loan. So again, I bring this up to remind you that the system simply was not built for women. Our parents were of the generations that they were in a system that just didn't include women. And so they're not passing down that financial education to their female children. So now our generations are in that position of really, we are at the forefront. We feel like we should be further along because of all the pressure. But again, we are just now at the forefront of taking our financial empowerment back. And so I think I'm hopeful, like we've been so stuck in the wage gap for so long. I'm hoping that now, as momentum really picks up 50 years later, 30 years later, we'll start to get more momentum where women are getting educated. They are feeling more confident to take this into their own hands. And as a collective, we can talk about this. We can motivate each other, advocate for each other. Maybe now we can start to see some more progress because we're bringing this to light more like we're doing today and having these conversations and encouraging them to continue beyond today.
That is so awesome. And I just want to acknowledge, Allie, that you've had a couple people in the chat. I am not finding it right now. But somebody said, drop the mic after something that you said. And absolutely, Allie, from Kim. So it sounds like what we're talking about really is resonating with the people that are on. So I want to leave enough time for questions, but I want to ask a really important question before we move on to that. And it's something that I've experienced it myself. Allie, what would you say to people who say that they can't afford professional financial support or advice?
I would say I have been there most of my life. And that's okay. I think it's okay to feel that way. And again, like, let's look at, I love that, Becky, the believe and the lie within the belief. Like, is that really true? I think, first of all, there's always things that you can do that don't rely on money. Start working on your mindset. Go buy Joyce's book. That would cost money, but not a lot. And it would help you. I mean, the mindset is everything. So start with your mindset, your awareness. You can self-educate, find books, find podcasts, and just start getting your stuff organized. Like, those are accessible places for anyone to start that don't really cost dollars. At the same time, I have watched my own clients, some of them who do not have a lot of money. They have debt they're working through. They just started a business, and they realize that hiring a financial professional is an investment. And by starting a little bit before you're ready, it really puts the motivation and urgency behind them to commit to the process, to do the action items, to actually make change. And I've watched clients start with very little and feel like this is a big investment for them to start working with me. And because they've chosen to commit, they're moving so fast. They're making so much progress. They're telling me they've never felt better about their money ever in their lives until now. They're saving more money. They're getting more done. So I just think, again, you have to start. It's never going to be the perfect time. So just start before you're ready, and know that if it isn't right, you can always change. You can always change course. So just remember, you're never stuck. You always have choice, but see what it's like to maybe start a little bit before you're ready.
I love that. And thank you for mentioning my book. People could get that in the library if they have an Audible credit. It would be free to them on Amazon. I popped the link in the chat. And so it's a small investment, and it's a program that's step by step with activities and exercises to build those skills. And I think taking a financial literacy course, whether it's Dave Ramsey's or Susie Orman's online, or another one maybe at your community mental health center. And like you said, Allie, listening to money podcasts, just educating yourself is super, super empowering. And I like consumercreditcounselingservice.org for people who really may have overwhelming debt and maybe at the very beginning of learning budgeting and financial literacy. So, Becky, what do you think about, that kind of chicken and egg problem where people don't think that they have the money to invest in financial support, but if they don't, they're going to continue to suffer financially?
Well, it starts with awareness, for sure. Having this conversation, if we can be open to take that responsibility for ourselves, that simple formula is that you can actually get your return back on anything that you invest in. Again, it does start with that self-talk. It really does come to that piece of focusing on that habit change versus the get quick pixie dust fantasy that's not real. It takes work and rocking your day every day. We do that in my program. We measure and we evaluate everything that we do, knowing your numbers, working with a licensed, maybe QuickBook expert or somebody who really a CPA to help you track in progress, not only monetarily, but your self-promotion strategies, your consultations and your offers, what's working, what's not. And then that responsibility piece, catching yourself when you're saying, I don't know how, or, if it wasn't for ... whatever it is, I'd be further ahead. So just catching those sneaky lies. And then the way that you get really great at one thing is practice. Financial acumen really is a skill. We've already talked about that. Are you really willing to learn, to block your calendar, to study and to practice?
Yeah.
It really is like physical fitness. It's not a one and done. Like, for example, football players or people who win the lottery, the research is that their money goes away within a year or 3. And I myself have been very mindful of that because I was fortunate enough to sell my business. But if I don't feel deserving on a deeper level, I'm going to push that money away.
Yes.
And so it's an ongoing process. And even with financial literacy, there's business financial literacy. There's also, like Becky was talking about, sort of the fear of the unknown with investing. And I've, in the last couple of years, become a venture capital investor for businesses founded by Northwestern students where I graduated from. And it's a way for me to give back to entrepreneurs and also hopefully receive a financial return on that. So there's so many different things that we can get involved in. So I see lots of great comments in the chat, and I would like to welcome Raz to start posting some of the resources that we want to share on how to contact Becky and Allie and about some of their offerings. And while we do that, I'm going to ask some questions. And if there are any questions, if you wouldn't mind retyping them in the chat so that I see them right away. I do know that we had one emailed to us, which is, why do you suppose talking about money is taboo?
Again, I think it comes back to systems of oppression. When we're made to feel like we can't talk about something, we're less likely to question it, and we're less likely to learn what other people are doing, which leads to self-empowerment and education. And so I think our system wasn't necessarily, our financial system wasn't really built to be inclusive. And so by keeping it silent, not allowed to be talked about, it just keeps the power paradigm where it is. And you can think back on other things that are taboo that are also powerful and empowering that we're not allowed to talk about or question. So I think, to me, I think it really stems back to systemic oppression and power imbalances.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And Becky, what are your insights around that?
Well, I think it's the paradigm we grew up in, either our faith formation, our culture. It was, my grandmother was very superstitious, and to talk about, there was a bankruptcy, and if you talked about it, it might happen again. So it's, it was a gold trauma, a financial wound within the family unit, and so we just subscribed to that. My grandma lived in a trailer. And she used to go to, she called it Kmart's. And so she would take my sister and I would get a big, huge paper bag of junky things. But that was very important to her. And she created a new paradigm, how rich we were and how fun and fancy. And I just went through my jewelry box with my adult girls and remembered the memory of my grandma normalizing the way that, she sees a really rich life.
How beautiful. I love that. And I hope we all do that for our mentors and the women that we support. There's a question from Rose in the chat. I love the concept of women needing to feel safety in finances. Safety is a deep-rooted, sorry, I'm having some technical weirdnesses where there's a little box over the question. Okay, safety is a deep-rooted need systemic symptom. How can you align, thank you, for the desire for safety with some of the risk needed to invest? Great question.
I would love to jump in. First of all, hi, Rose. I know Rose. So glad you're here. And this is a fantastic question. And man, I could have talked for a whole hour on this, but I think to dive right in, coming from that lens of trauma informed, we have to feel safe before we can take risk. This is why, as an artist, I realized if I don't get some semblance of financial safety in my system, I cannot create, which means taking risks to the best degree that I can. So I think when you're looking at investing and taking risks, one, you should never go beyond your risk tolerance. You should, you can find that edge, but you don't have to feel pressured to go past it. Number one. Number two, it's about creating safety so that you can take risk. What does that mean? It means always having enough cash on hand in the bank, easily accessible for whatever emergency you're scared of, or to support several months of living without income. So creating those safety structures, getting your insurance picture set up, right? Protecting yourself against risk so that you can more comfortably lean in, and diversifying how you're taking risk in your different investment accounts and the different investments that you're choosing to get. So I think there's a way to diversify, but again, never feeling that pressure to go past what you're truly comfortable with. It's a fine line, right? Going a little, pushing the comfort zone, but you don't have to go further than what allows you to sleep at night.
Yes, exactly. And if we don't expand our comfort zone, like you said, we lose money. So if, it's like putting money under the mattress, it's not going to grow.
Yeah.
And so we have to have some healthy risk tolerance, especially as entrepreneurs. So I have another positive comment for you, Allie. Wonderful to witness you shining, from Kim Castle.
Thank you, Kim. It's so glad you're here.
And we have posted in the chat, I posted a few of my Psychology Today articles. I've posted information about how to check out the Dames, how Allie and Becky and I met, and also information about Becky's offerings and her 6-figure focus lab, as well as, her contact information, et cetera, on LinkedIn. So we hope that everyone will reach out to us. We are at time right now. So just any final words, Becky and Allie?
Well, I think that it's just super courageous to have, we've had over 800 people raise their hand they want to be here today. So thank you so much for your time being here. It's a conversation that we need to be having. So I just, again, have so much respect for the conversation. Thank you for the invitation. And Allie, it was so great to hear what you have to share too. So Joyce, I am just so happy that we got to have this time together.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting us, Joyce, and putting this together. Thank you to everyone who came and showed interest and watched the replay. This is such an important conversation, and I'm so grateful to have been here with Joyce and Becky today, and it went by really fast. And so I just want to encourage us to keep having these conversations, breaking the taboo, talking about it, asking questions, get curious within your community about your community's money stories and how we can all just keep supporting each other. All, rising tide lifts all boats, like Becky said. So thanks everyone for showing up today.
Yes, thank you. Mwah. Thank you to both of you and to everyone who attended and anyone who is willing to share the video. This will be on LinkedIn Live, or LinkedIn rather, forever. So share it with your contacts and spread the word about our services. We would love to support you. So thank you for your time and attention, and hopefully we'll all reunite another time and do this again. Thanks again. We're going to sign off now.